Boom! What up, America? Doug Gottlieb Show. Fox Sports Radio. Broadcasting live from TireRack.com studios. TireRack.com. We'll get there. Unmatched selection, fast, free shipping, free road hazard protection. Over 10,000 recommended installers. TireRack.com. It's the way tire buying should be. Welcome in. See, here's where Jason Stewart is smarter than the rest of us. He's such a curmudgeon and such a negative dude about the Dodgers that when the Dodgers lose, Jay Stu wins. When the Dodgers win, Jay Stu wins. I mention it because he always thinks something bad's going to happen with the Dodgers. Last night, something bad did happen. Oh, yeah, by the way, despite the fact they were down big early, plenty of opportunities, even late, to score some runs, where the Dodgers just left too many. And then how good was the Mets closer? You talk about just gas. Anyway, we'll get to some baseball upcoming. Let's get to the story of the day here on the Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio. That's Davante Adams is now a New York Jet. This coming the day after the Jets lose to the Bills. And really, like, as much as we can sit there and go Aaron Rodgers was the gate through 2 interceptions, they also had a field goal kicker, missed 2 absolute bunnies. And, you give away 6 points in a game that close, and it doesn't matter what you do. But I thought it was interesting. You have Aaron Rodgers on his Pat McAfee hit on ESPN, and here's what happened.
Yeah, we're back, man. We're back, and I'm feeling great, man. Feeling great. Getting, I was working with the staff over in Vegas the whole time, and they got me back right. So, fortunately, I'll be able to roll. And I'm sure there's a few new, little nuances, but for the most part, a lot of the same verbiage. Still the same OG right here, so should be able to pick up where we left off.
So that's Davante at Aaron Rodgers' house, apartment, whatever, doing the hit. Here's Aaron Rodgers on what Davante brings to the table.
Obviously, I'm really excited. Love Tay. He's a phenomenal player and a dear friend. It was a crappy day. Yesterday, obviously, we had a real good chance to get to 3-3 and win a home game. Kind of gave that one away. I was pissed driving home through traffic. Had a couple messages. I was just not in the mood to talk to anybody. Got home and Tay had called me, so I finally called him back. And so about 12:45 last night, I heard the news.
So 12:45 last night. Here's what's amazing. Okay. And look, it all makes sense to me. I think a third that's going to be a second is an overpay? Yeah. And I think Tom Telesco did really good because there wasn't a lot of interest out there, I think, to get Davante Adams, no matter how good he's been in his career with that money. And the Jets are taking all the money. But it makes sense. Like, look, if you're going to save the season, like you're going to actually try and win this year, and you got Davante Adams, and he has a great relationship with Aaron Rodgers. Now you have 2 elite wide receivers. Like, that's great. Now, does Aaron Rodgers look like the Aaron Rodgers of old? No. Do I think Davante Adams helps it? Some. But, boy, he doesn't move like he used to, and that used to be one of his superpowers. But really, what you have heard and what you have seen only proves that Aaron was completely lying last week when he told us that Woody Johnson called him after they got home from London to see how he was doing, but didn't tell him he was going to fire the head coach. Right? Didn't tell him. Because it just, nothing about this makes sense if that was the case. Right? Nothing about it makes sense. Zero sense. Hey, none. Because, again, let's walk you through it really quickly. That's all we got to do is walk you through it. So Aaron Rodgers was always upset at the Packers because the Packers let his boys go, right? Remember when he kind of basically aired his grievances? It was over so many, not just Jordy Nelson, but plenty of other guys who they had allowed to walk. And when they drafted Jordan Love, he was, again, outwardly, he said he was most upset that he wasn't given a heads up. I think partially upset that they didn't go after like a T. Higgins would have been available there or whatever. But the Packers drafted a quarterback who became available late. They traded up to get him, and Aaron said, I didn't know. So when you have a guy who has that's classic trust issues, right? Trust issues. And you get Aaron Rodgers, and you tell Aaron Rodgers, hey, man, you're going to be a part of this process. And Aaron Rodgers has been allowed to recruit his former quarterback coach to be his offensive coordinator, now back to being a non-play caller, and several other teammates, and now Davante Adams. So Aaron Rodgers has a say in the room with Joe Douglas in terms of who he thinks Joe Douglas should have to support him, which is great. But again, the big lie is that Aaron Rodgers was unwilling to own up to the fact, at minimum, there's no way that Woody Johnson didn't tell him he was going to fire Robert Saleh. None. That's at minimum. So if he didn't want it to happen, he could have said it didn't want it to happen. Now, what he really should have done is, because it's pretty obvious that he didn't think Robert Saleh was a championship level coach. What he should have said was, hey, Woody and I talked. I've played on championship teams. I played for Mike McCarthy. I played a long time in the Green Bay Packers organization. I feel like I know what works and what doesn't work. It wasn't working, and Woody chose to move on. That would be honesty. But the guy who wants to tell us that everybody else is lying, there's a conspiracy behind it, is still unwilling to tell the hard truth. And again, if I'm totally candid, like no one has ever done that. Right? Magic Johnson has never owned up to firing Paul Westhead. Larry Bird never really owned up to firing Bill Fitch. Michael Jordan never really owned up to getting Doug Collins fired. Right? LeBron James has never really owned up to getting David Blatt fired. Right? And you go through NFL coaches, same thing. Okay? Same thing. I mean, Kobe, God rest his soul, he got Mike Brown fired. And I'm sure he got Mike Brown fired, not because Brown's not a great dude. He is. He was running offense that didn't fit, and it was just bad. And he's just like, hey, this isn't working. And Kobe has the equity to do it. But no one has done that. Aaron Rodgers claims to be this honest salesman that he's willing to say what no one else is willing to say, except for this. So, do I love the Davante thing? I love it for the Raiders. That's a sinking ship. That's very likely to be a second-round pick, and a high second-round pick considering where the Jets currently sit. Plus, it gets all that money off of their books. That's a great trade as they continue to try and start over yet again. For the Jets, it's probably the best possible solution offensively, right? It's because if you bring in somebody that doesn't know Aaron, he doesn't trust, it's a waste. It doesn't actually matter. Even bringing in an offensive lineman, that's not really going to help at this point in time because they haven't played together. Now you have two legit big-time pass-catch options and a running back who can catch it out of the backfield. Aaron has to be better. Field goal kicker has to be better. But it does make them better. Does it solve their problems? Probably not, right? They're trying to trade Hassan Reddick and get some sort of pass rush. Like, we'll see where that one sits. I think the Raiders won the trade, but the Jets trade makes sense because they've gone all in on Aaron. The only thing that doesn't make sense and is nearly impossible to believe is that Aaron Rodgers, it wasn't at least run by him, let alone he didn't have a say in the firing of Robert Saleh.